Do you have questions about your health? Do you need to find out what's keeping you from feeling your absolute best? If so, your intuition has guided you to the right place. I am Dr. Charlize, and welcome to the Art of Healing podcast community. In this podcast, we explore all topics in health and wellness, from Reiki to functional medicine, energy medicine, chakras, and meditation. Join me every week for fresh new episodes that highlight healers, various healing modalities, and choose this as your opportunity to find what healing works best for you. If you want to learn more about me, simply Google at Dr. Charlize. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome back to the Art of Healing podcast. This is Dr. Charlize. If we have met before, good to see you again. And if we have not met before, so nice to meet you, and I'm glad that you are here. We just finished up with an amazing webinar that we had last week called The Apology Tour with Dr. Lakeisha. Dr. Lakeisha really explained to us where we are in women's health in such a relatable and modern way right now. If you missed us, unfortunately, that won't be something we're going to play on the podcast. To hear Dr. Lakeisha's Apology Tour stop, you'll have to sign up for the Hormone Harmony Summit. She will be a part of our panel of esteemed speakers. She is going to be contributing so much along with intuitive healers, health coaches, other functional medicine doctors. If you want to sign up for the event and you want to secure your early access, you can buy your ticket now in the show notes. I'm so excited that we are launching this event February 19th to February 22nd, 2026. So check your show notes for more info. You can sign up for your free access, your hormone all access pass. Make sure that you get the lowest price to have the recordings, to listen and re-listen and take your notes later. All right, so let's get into our episode today, and let's talk about this period of life called perimenopause and menopause and what it means to you and how we approach this when no one has prepared us for it. We've been having this conversation on the podcast for a few weeks now, talking about the things that women may experience during the transition of perimenopause and during menopause. And for so many women, that question is, why don't I feel like myself? And today, I want to make sure you're aware of a resource that I have that helps you explore this topic. And it's so interesting. This is something that I've heard women say in the 20 years that I've been in practice in medicine, in the 8-9 years that I've practiced Reiki, is this shift that's not just the body, it's the mind, it's the spirit, it's huge, it's identity, and how to feel about this, the stress around it, really changing into a new person. For so many of us women, the time of perimenopause, which we learned some nuggets of true wisdom from Dr. Lakeisha, which you'll hear more in this summit, of how long perimenopause lasts, the transition into menopause, and what it means. It's a big topic, and it's something that, depending on where you are, you almost have to address it in parts and pieces, maybe just looking at where you are now and reflecting on where you were a year ago or 5 years ago. I have an ebook called Awakening in Midlife, a grounded roadmap that helps you when you're overwhelmed and really helps you break down the layers of this period of your life and how you'll want to adjust. Women are trained to see their symptoms that they experience as something that they're doing wrong, some way that they've failed. So we really want to see this differently. Although we may think of it as simply just changes in the hormones of reproduction, there's many changes happening. There's changes in the chemistry of your brain. There's changes in your nervous system. There's changes in how you sleep, your metabolism, your propensity to have chronic inflammation, and even your response to stress. The hormones fluctuating and the physical changes, the obvious ones we think of, hot flashes and vaginal dryness, those are just the tip of the iceberg. Sleep disruption, which can occur in a number of flavors. It may be waking up way too early, not being able to go to bed at night, or a mix and match of those. One of the most common, and the more I'm learning about this transition and going through this transition along with you listeners, is that the sleep disruption part can change, that it may start one way, and then depending on where you are and your stress levels, it may actually begin to change. Recently, I was working with a patient in clinic, and she's in her late 70s, and she had recently been diagnosed with a neurological disorder that's similar to Parkinson's, but not quite Parkinson's. It's devastating what it's doing to her because it's affecting her ability to use her hands. She has a tremor. Her memory is coming and going. And during her visit, she wanted to talk about her sleep disruption. So we're reviewing her medications. And out of curiosity, I asked her, well, how long has it been since you actually slept well? And she thought, got really quiet for a few minutes, and she said, it's probably been 35 years since I've slept well. And I was floored. I thought, wait a minute, what? 35 years? So she did the math in her head. She said, yeah, probably starting back in my 40s. I can recall that about the time that my periods were stopping, my sleep became terrible. And, I tried to talk to my doctor about it, and they told me just live with it. So I really haven't slept well since then. So that sleep disruption not being addressed other than prescription medications, my poor patient just learned to adapt and just to live around this. And the more we talk, she decided that probably her ongoing neurologic disorder related to her inability to get a good night's sleep for the past 30 years. Reason why I'm sharing that story is that if you are in this phase of your life where you have questions about what's happening, the importance of reflecting on it and really thinking about this, because it means the way that you enter perimenopause is how you will live in the later stages of your life. Emotional changes. So for women, anxiety, feeling irritable, feeling short fused, having mood swings. And if that doesn't feel like you, this might even be more difficult if you're already living with mental health challenges. If you've already been diagnosed with depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder, the changes that come on with perimenopause, menopause are very, very serious. And you need to be even more aware than other people because your mental health could be even more affected. It may mean that your medications need to be changed. You may need to get back into therapy, consider additional healing modalities if you're in this period of time. And then, of course, the physical changes, which those are the ones we think of the most, are the hot flashes and the brain fog, weight gain that we're not wanting. So all of these things that are happening in perimenopause and in menopause can be frustrating. But again, I want us to talk about these experiences not as something we've done wrong or something we need to do more of, but our mind, our body, and our spirit asking us for something. So let's approach this change with a 3-layer model. So we'll want to think about where we are in 3 different layers. The physical layer or the body layer, And that's where we might be thinking of the sleep disruptions, the changes in our appetite, our changes in insulin sensitivity, which can lead to changes in our metabolism, inflammation. So having more joint pain, muscle pain, fatigue, some of the things like the hot flashes, the skin changes, either dry skin, acne, combinations of both. So those are the physical things that would come with the body layer. Then there's the emotional layer, and that's where the changes in the hormones fluctuating sometimes rapidly, erratically change our serotonin receptivity, can change something called the GABA or GABA in a way that's disruptive, which can lead us anxious or nervous or feeling overwhelmed. It can lead to brain fog, which could be part of the body layer or it could be part of the emotional layer. Then the third layer is the identity and the spiritual layer. And this is where we might notice our intuition is stronger and realize that we are wiser than we think, but that might be uncomfortable, especially if you didn't necessarily want it, or sometimes knowledge is coming to you that you really didn't feel ready for. That could actually be very uncomfortable. But also that identity of who you are, the way you show up in the world, who you are in your relationships. And because we're preparing for the summit, I've been interviewing these amazing speakers, that identity conversations come up so much about showing up even as a different person and how this can be disruptive to the people around you. So the key with this is that perimenopause and menopause, although we mostly associate with the hormone changes, all of these layers are changing all of the time. And so, of course, you don't feel like the same person. So let's address a few myths. And we actually do this in the ebook. We talked about some myths, I think, in the last podcast. First myth is that it's all in your head. So the practice of medicine has been gaslighting women for decades. Yes, it is in their head because their brain is changing, but they really are experiencing something. So maybe there's nothing that's becoming positive, like an abnormal CT or even abnormal labs, but no, it's not all in your head. Speaking of labs, another myth is that your labs are normal, so you're fine. Women often go to the doctor asking for a thyroid level, check the hormone levels. They want to know if their progesterone's too low or their estrogen's too low, and they get the results back and they're actually coming back normal. So what does this mean? It means that according to the lab, which is based on statistical analysis and evidence-based medicine, it may truly be normal. Does not mean that you're not going through the change. Doesn't mean that you're not feeling differently. You are. You may find out that this phase, you may want to do something differently in 6 months or a year. So although the labs are normal, doesn't mean that it's not important information. The next myth is that you just have to go through this. There's nothing that you can do. There really are things that you can do. But in order to figure out what's the next steps, you really have to reflect on where you are now. It can be overwhelming, especially if you're trying to think about how you feel and you haven't slept in weeks and your brain's foggy and you're overrun with an appetite. And, so it's hard to piece all that out. But starting with even the smallest step is worth it. The next myth is you're gaining weight because you're just not doing enough and you're lazy. The weight gain can come from so many places: current medications, sleep that's disruptive or ineffective, and all the metabolic changes that come with the shift in the ovaries going to retirement and the adrenal glands picking up the mantle of being your primary hormone generator. And the last myth is that menopause is like the end. For many women, this is the uptick in who they really are meant to be in this lifetime. And it's a phase of true empowerment. It's a phase of growth, and growth is uncomfortable. So Really, menopause is a time of stepping into yourself. So if this is you or you wonder if it's you or even someone that you love, this is them. 3 things to do this week. Really 4, which is one, I would encourage you to download the book that I'll put in the show notes, Awakening in Midlife. Next is working on the sleep routine. So even if you're having disrupted sleep, we can always do a few little things. Check the light exposure. We want to limit it getting close to bedtime. We want to limit blue screen exposure or limit screen exposure as much as possible. You want to get bright, natural light if you can in the morning. Try to have a good bedtime routine. Even if you're getting to your bedtime routine on time, make sure you've got something that can help you decompress, such as journaling, meditating. One of our speakers, Brandy Gibson, gave some really great tips. She'll give those in the summit about things that you can do to slow down at bedtime and also things that you can do in the morning to help set you up to have a good nervous system day and sleep well at night. Making sure your breakfast has plenty of protein. So we want to get in fiber and protein. My personal new favorite breakfast is lentils, eggs, and vegetables. A lot of the traditional breakfast foods, especially in the American diet, are not the best for those of us that are going through this change. So you may have to get a little bit more creative. Greek yogurt with chia seeds, that's a good way to get some protein in. I really am a fan of getting the vegetables in. So mixing them in an omelet, that's a good way to do it as well. One of my favorite things to do is during a busy day, I challenge myself to stop and breathe 5 times. 5 breaths takes up about a minute or 2. And especially if I feel like I need to check myself before I wreck myself, the 5 breaths during the day really helps me to reset. In your show notes, I would encourage you to get a copy of Awakening in Midlife. It's an ebook that you can have on your phone. You can gently read it or read it with your journal and reflect on it. And it's also a good way to start framing the questions that you might need to take to your physician. And it also is a good way to explore all of this before the summit, it is totally free during the time of the summit. And if you would like to have recordings, you actually want to purchase the access now because the tickets are at their lowest price to have access to the recordings, the downloads, everything our speakers are going to offer. But of course, you can join us free during the summit, February 19th to February 22nd. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. Show notes have a lot of important info. If you missed some of this, sign up for my email list because I'll also be making announcements there. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining during this episode of the Art of Healing podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a review. Also, you can check your show notes to find out how to get a copy of this and future episodes emailed directly to your inbox, available to listen to anytime. Finally, if you have questions or wish to connect to me, check your show notes to find out how we can get connected and find out how I can be of service to you.